boss one. I'm gonna get mine. I'll do the time. If you can do the time, don't tell me how you off and down. When you're smiling in my face, but you're bleeding like a clown, it's your fool bitch. So just step back. I'm a mad dad when I come down straight. I thought you were my piece, but you played me out. Now I'm mad as hell, and I'm full of doubt. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go. Yeah. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go. I'm back on the scene, it's time to get mean. I'm a lean revolution machine. For what people say, they sway. 1, 2, 3 is good as any day. You'll feel slightly this, let's resist. Raise your fist and walk like this. Promises over the top. Don't cross the line, but you know it's wrong. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go. Yeah. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna?
And Jim's here with us.
I decided to go down Route 38, almost like towards home.
It's very interesting to me.
And then I went down Westfield.
Can you tell me more about this DNA test?
Sort of, like on the way into
Hello?
Cinnamon, and then I went to Cinnamon.
Yes, can you hear me?
Is that you, Lefty?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Zev. It's great to meet you. This is Sue on here, Jim, and I'm Lefty.
Hi there.
I really am interested in this DNA testing that's going on. What is that all about? It sounds like it could help a lot of patients to me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'll be happy to explain it. We already work with lots of doctors who've been prescribing products based on the DNA testing for a couple of years. To simplify it, basically, we take a buccal swab, which is a swab of the cheek from a patient, and that material is examined in a lab, in a HIPAA-compliant lab in California, and then a report is generated from the data, which shows all of the biological systems present in everybody's body. And what it does in detail is explain how the genes express symptomatic conditions that are present in that person's particular body. So, as an example, for my DNA testing, I show a proclivity to bruxism, which is grinding your teeth at night when you're sleeping. And there's a gene, a specific gene attached to that. And from that that symptomatic expression, we actually can look at terpenes and cannabinoids that are effective in treating that particular malady. And the test importantly shows your metabolic rate for cannabinoids. So it shows your metabolism for CBD singularly. It shows your metabolism for THC singularly. It also shows the ratios that are acceptable according to your genetic makeup when you mix them together. So in my particular example, I'm a very slow metabolizer for THC, so I have really a maximum ratio of 1-to-1 on a 5 milligram to 5 milligram is really my maximum that I can take comfortably. Most indications that I show in my test, I'll take a 10-to-1 ratio. So what it does is it helps us to create precision dosing for patients, and we've been very successful for, like I said, for more than 2 years already, treating patients for anxiety, pain, and sleep, which are the main things that people are needing these products for. So the anxiety formula is also in full scale clinical trial right now.
Do you work with any patients with epilepsy? Because I know the patients with epilepsy really need to know their terp profiles. It's very specific for some.
So we do work with epileptic patients. We have this product right here, which is a metered dose inhaler, and we've had good luck with that. Although it's not been in a full trial as of yet, we're working on actually establishing a clinical trial for that. We've already had success on the animal side with a clinical study of refractory epilepsy in animals.
Whoa, yeah, that sounds amazing. That's super helpful, because there's some terps that I need for my pain. I have a chronic pain, and there's some terps that I don't need, that I don't want. And same with say you have PTSD, you want terps that are going to keep you calm rather than excite you and motivate you, I guess,
For sure.
This is amazing. Yeah, I
What
know
else?
Rob was very interested. What is the product that you're working on? If you already have a DNA test on file, you can use that. Is that how it works?
If you have 23andMe or Ancestry, and there's another one that I can't remember the name of it, but if a lot of people have those two, you are able to upload it to our platform and use that data. It doesn't quite give you the full extent of everything, but it's very helpful. And we have other tests that are coming out right now. One of them is already released, and I'll give you the description of it in just a moment. It's aimed at women's health, actually. Let me see if I can find it. But this other test is out, and we're doing a test. We've got a test for canines as well that we are bringing out and expanding in order to treat dogs the same way. Where is it from, Len?
This is amazing. This is the kind of technology we need to lean into.
Well, we definitely have we have a lot of interest because we have another group that wants to use the testing to treat symptoms around autistic patients. I had a call this morning actually on that with we're working with a pharmaceutical company that wants to treat autism in particular to start. And then we're probably going to use it for palliative care also with a cannabis medication that we're looking to to license to them as well. Just give me a second. I'm going to tell you about the test on women's health in just a moment, if I can find the document. Oh, here it is. Here it is. So then the other test that we're about to start offering is called a menopause biotype genetic test. It's a tool to inform women as they navigate the unique journey of menopause. So it identifies individual biotypes to predict menopausal symptoms, potential disease risks, and potential effective hormonal treatments and lifestyle interventions tailored to each woman's specific needs. So in short, it analyzes genetic markers and provides insight into women's predisposition for symptoms such as hot flashes, mood swings, sleep disturbances, decreased libido, excuse me, and more. So we're actually this is involved in hormone replacement therapy also. So that's we're working with a women's health, another pharma company focused on women's health, and we'll hopefully be bringing that out into more widespread use as well.
What pharmaceutical company are you working with?
Well, we're working with a few different ones, but I'm not going to mention the names on the show.
Okay. How confident are you on the accuracy
Of what?
what you've done so far with the DNA testing?
Oh, we have thousands of patients that have been treated already that are successfully.
And where are the patients coming from?
Wow.
They're primarily in Brazil right now because the products are licensed by Anvisa. We registered them, and we have had a network of doctors prescribing them there.
And how you have a group that you're testing, and then what do you have like a placebo group also?
Well, no, not in that functionality, because that wasn't a clinical trial. That the products have been on the market as medicine and approved and already being prescribed as medicine.
Which medications are you talking about?
We're talking about our formulas, the formulas that are attached to our system. We have a formula called Response for anxiety. We have an immune formula. We have a cognitive formula. We have an unwind sleep formula. They're all sophisticated formulas that are already they're for sale here in the States, but in other countries they're already registered as medicine. So the clinical trial part of the business I'm talking about is separate. We actually own a part of a pharmaceutical company, so we're in the pharmaceutical business already. So
yeah, I see that it says Master Pharmaceuticals.
Right, that's our company, but we are making medicines for other pharmaceutical companies, and we're also facilitating full scale clinical trials.
So the clinical trials are being done in Brazil, right?
One is being done here at Harvard. Other ones are being done in Brazil.
Okay, so you're doing some out of Harvard.
The anxiety formula is in a trial at Harvard.
And you have a medication called Response?
That's just the name of the formula.
Okay.
And we can sell that in a dispensary in New Jersey?
Is it a cannabis product or is it a pharmaceutical?
No, it's considered technically in this world, it's considered a wellness product or a hemp product. It's not we have the same formula that can be produced with cannabis as the same exact formula plus cannabis, which is a possibility. But to sell it in your place in New Jersey, Lefty, it just depends on I don't know what the exact dispensary rules are on, on Delta 9 content.
Well, if it's medicine, we do have a medical program in Jersey.
Well, I guess it depends on who's looking at it. Right? 'Cause we sell it on our website, but at the same time, we sell it in Brazil and it's medicine. Does that make sense, Sue?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, we work outside of the U.S. because the U.S. is limiting to us. We've got products registered in a number of different countries already as medicine.
Very cool. What's the website that we can check out?
Mavenbioscience.com.
Very cool. I'm going to check that out. I'm really interested in this as a patient myself, and a lot of patients, especially with epilepsy, are interested in this and the terp profiles and the absorption. That's very important stuff, and it can really help out a lot of different ailments.
So we work with a lot of different doctors, but we do have doctors that we work with that are neurologists that are specifically treating epilepsy. Okay. Like we have really two different big groups of doctors. One is on the human side and one is on the veterinary. We work with a veterinary foundation that has about 10,000 doctors in it. And so we're doing parallel work, although, I don't want people to think that somehow we're not going to the full extent of things on either side because we're working on animals. Sometimes people think if you're working on animals, you're not serious. But we're working with clinical studies on both sides, human and pet.
So your clinical studies, you're dosing patients as they come in, right, to be in the study. Yes.
Well, in the studies, well, to be honest, I'm not involved in dosing the patients. I know the overall structure, like what the studies
But
for.
The patients are being dosed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
who's doing the dosing? Do you have a nurse doing the dosing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because Sue is part of the cannabis nurses.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
What kind of parameters are you following with the dosing?
For which study?
Whatever study you want to use it as an example.
Oh, well, actually, I don't want to get into specifics of the current study because it's a longitudinal study and it's going to take many months, and I'm not really involved in I'm not involved in the administration. There's a famous doctor whose name is failing me at the moment, who's a brilliant cannabis doctor with red hair, and I just can't think of her name at the moment. She's running it. Okay. Since I'm the partner in the pharma company and the head of Maven, I'm involved in setting up the parameters of the studies, but not the administration.
Okay. So what parameters do you have set up?
Well, like I told you, we've got the study on the anxiety formula at Harvard, and we're starting we are beginning a trial on like I said, for our anxiety, that particular formula again for autism, the characteristics of autism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then also the cannabis medicine, which will be used mainly for palliative care, but also for nausea.
Okay. Okay. Someone in the audience is asking who's approving the studies.
What IRB?
IRB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's an institutional. I don't know who I'd have to look. I'd have to get back to you on who approved the study at Harvard. I don't know, but it's legitimate, and there is no IRB for Anvisa in Brazil. We're just, we're spearheading the movement of precision medicine and cannabis, and it's not there's no exact format for this globally yet, right? This is a lot of what we're doing is new that nobody's ever done before. But getting approval by Anvisa is no easy choice. If anybody in the audience is wondering, Anvisa's one of the premier medical and medicine authorities in the world, and once you get approval from an agency like that, or the Therapeutic Goods Administration in Australia, where we're also working, you have the ability post-trial to ship your medicine to 40 other countries. So this is a much bigger picture.
Mhm.
So we're also
they're
confident about the trials because we've had plenty of patient exposure already. We've been not dosing, but treating thousands of patients already.
Do you have numbers for like the amount of patients that you're dosing for say autism, for instance?
The Autism Project is just starting now.
Okay. How about women's health? You mentioned that.
The women's health thing, that's a new test. I'm not sure how many women have been treated yet with that. It's this hormone therapy, hormone replacement therapy treatment is not new. The test and protocol around that is new, and I can get you more information on it, but I'm not sure how many people have participated in it yet.
Yeah, that would be really good if you could do that.
For sure, Sue.
Okay.
That'd be my pleasure. We actually have made some women's health products for the last couple years related to pelvic pain, specifically for other doctors, orthopedic and gynecologist doctors that asked us to formulate for that.
And what products were those?
They're on our website. The product is specifically called Ease, and it's under our women's health section on the site. So it's like I said, for pelvic pain, and that's been prescribed probably for at least the last 3 years, maybe 4 years, by those doctors.
Jesse says all hormone therapy is new and doesn't always work, myself included.
Well, no drugs work for everybody. That's for certain, and that's what we learned with the metabolic testing. Everybody, the problem in our country is really that people are self-medicating, right, at dispensaries or buying CBD products, and there's no real rhyme or reason behind it. Unless you have the metabolic information and you can dose yourself properly, you don't get the results.
Yeah,
What is your
Jesse had
error?
two-
What kind of margin of error are you working with
In what sense?
in creating these products that you're talking about?
I don't know what you mean.
Margin of error, like, how many outliers versus how many are successful?
Like a success rate?
That's, I don't know. We don't take polls of the patients. I mean, we work with our main point of contact is doctors. We have thousands of doctors that we work with, and they're prescribing the products. And I would say more often than not, we have success. But we're not taking doing statistical analysis of every single product that is sent out to a patient. It's not possible right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Zev. MavenBioscience.com. Any questions? You can go there. The products are there. Where are they tested at, by the way? They're tested in Brazil, I guess, or in the United States, or both?
Do you mean for laboratory testing, as in potency and
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
and pesticides and all those different things?
Yeah. Right.
We test everything in the States. Some things are retested outside of the States. We work internationally, just so you know. So it's not just Brazil. It's just Brazil has serious potential for the medicine side of everything.
Yeah.
So
New Jersey
testing
just
is always
fined a dispensary.
what?
New Jersey just fined a dispensary, I think 10,000 and 7,000 for having hair and bugs in the cannabis.
Yeah, that's
was
terrible. That's
It was a
terrible.
recall.
We've been testing our bulk materials and our products since 8 years, for the last 8 years, with recognized authorities in testing. And we work with, keep in mind also, we're making medicine with APIs, cannabinoid APIs and other APIs, and there's purity standards around those. Very, very extreme purity standards.
Has multiple sclerosis entered into the mix for any targeted analysis of what we're doing here?
You know, I don't know. I know that there are doctors in our network treating patients with multiple sclerosis, but there's no, I don't believe there's any standard around it yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, just when I hear the word neurologist, I think, oh, that's right, MS, and it's like 400,000 or so MS patients in the United States, and an MS society that's allegedly turning over every stone they can, except for the fact I had butted heads with the MS Society all through the 1990s and into the early 2000s. They were always the other side of the equation when a reporter or a news source needed a different point of view other than there seems to be quite promise with MS. And you go to the MS Society for the answer why it doesn't look that good. And so I wouldn't think they'd be jumping right onto it, but I, of course, for my own personal reasons, would love to see something brilliant happen in that area, just so, I could tell them you could have been part of it, But
we're hopeful. We know that cannabinoids can't cure everything, right? I mean, we're very hopeful, but
well, yeah, it's more not so much as a cure, but really mitigating the symptoms. Cannabis seems to be quite good for, and it may even have a neuroprotective benefit that would, in a sense, really help the myelin sheath from deteriorating. And it just seems like if there's with targeting being possible now, and may I say, this is so far over my head. Technically speaking, I can't even gesture the appropriate over my head, but I do understand the ramifications of what you're saying, and I find it pretty interesting. I'd like to. I'm surprised that this much is already going on, but of course, it's not as easy these days as it used to be to keep an eye on everything going on because there's a lot going on, and I don't know quite what to make of it, but it just seems like for a lot of people, it could be very beneficial to have a more targeted approach. I don't know. I'm at the bottom of this totem pole right here, though.
Sure. No, I look, once again, if we weren't optimistic, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But we're not
Sense.
in a country where it's easy to accomplish all of this without hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hmm.
So I think, we need a couple of years and we'll have a lot more concrete results that will be very actionable. We'll provide a lot of more actionable information.
For some people, a couple of years sounds like an extremely long time, but I'm well aware in the course of the science that we're talking about, a couple of years can be a lightning pace when you're trying to sort things out like this. So that doesn't discourage me.
These are big things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, something to look forward to that I had no idea about till tonight. So awesome.
How do you feel about home grow, Zev? Should
How do I
patients be
feel
allowed to
about
grow?
Sure. I don't have any issue with that. It's just that that's a different sort of treatment than I spend most of my time thinking about. We're thinking about precise dosing all the time.
Right.
And we work with one of the biggest and most precise grows in the world. That's a major supplier in the medical cannabis world. It just we're very much trying to figure out how to unlock the idea of dosing people properly and solving some major disease issues. And that's really where I spend most of my time thinking, what I think about most. And we have reason to be excited because the doctors that are in Brazil are serious. We started working with researchers from Hebrew University in Jerusalem years ago, and they've done incredible research also and incredible patient care on major things like diabetes and cancer. And all of it's coming together.
Very cool. Zev, thank you so much for your time. One quick question. It's a fun question before you go. What's your favorite munchie food?
Favorite munchie food?
Yeah.
Everybody gets that question.
So I was in Ecuador last year for an amazing science conference, and I went to the Amazon and picked cacao seeds, and we made chocolate over a fire, and that's really freaking hard to top.
Wow, that is hard to top. Whoa.
Highly recommend.
Good one.
That's not sustainable, but I like it.
Oh,
Unless you brought back a huge bag.
I did not. I actually forgot to bring any of it back like an idiot.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
yeah,
Wow, so cool. Well, thank you, Zev. I appreciate it. And check out mavenbioscience.com for all the products. And we might be having them here at the Mad Hatter. So very cool stuff. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Zev.
Great to meet you all.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Good stuff, man. What's the dosing on that munchie? What is the dosing on that munchie? And Gaetano likes Reese's peanut butter cups, I guess.
Stop.
Who was that? That you, Jim?
That was my phone. It wasn't me. Did I ever make a noise like that in my life? I've sat on this phone like a chicken trying to hatch an egg sometimes when I can't get the notifications off, but I don't want to kill it, What I need is I got to find like some old phones that I can hit with a hammer instead of my own when I need it. Hey, there's Dave.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Hi,
So
Dave.
can you introduce our guest?
This is Dave Sandamino. I think I know you since you were a little teeny tot, right?
That's true, yes.
Yeah. And the last time I saw you was at your wedding. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of mutual family and a lot of mutual friends. So
Absolutely.
Lefty is above you on my screen, and Jim is to your
By the
left.
name
My
Jim
right.
Miller.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Good
yeah,
meeting you guys.
I'm gonna sit back and listen. I
Yeah.
promise I won't talk.
Yeah,
You're not going to talk, Sue?
you're a main conduit connector here. You know,
That's funny. That's
you
so
know,
funny.
you will be the hub of
I-
all this.
When did
I'm
this
being
start?
quiet.
When
I'm
did
being
this problem
quiet.
begin? When did this problem begin, Sue? Let's talk about this.
I'm gonna be quiet.
You know, neither of us are really known for sitting on the sidelines during a good conversation, so it is a little
Nah,
curious.
Jim and I talk
I
too
got to
much.
say, you know, yeah. Well, this is going to be interesting for me, Dave, because you know, I as best I can try to find out who you are and what you're about, and I really liked what I saw. I mean,
Right.
I really, really did. And you know, I'm always the bottom. You know, what do you call the person that's not the smartest person in the room on a subject, but the least smart? I'm trying to find a good way of saying I'm the ignorant one when it comes to stuff like this. And it's only because I know a lot of people that know so much more than me that I don't need to know all that myself to be the beneficiary of what it is I don't know that much about. That makes maybe more sense than it sounded like, I hope. But I have such an appreciation for the cannabis plant in so many ways, and that you and your wife share that and have done what you've done in the last 25 years is like it's like a dream to me. I wish there wasn't so much room between us, because just from what I'm saying, I just would love to smell that and experience it. You know, I really would.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, it's like um, I don't even have the proper questions to ask. Just anything you could run off on, and whatever you would like to talk about, what's going on now, or what's it's going to be all
I,
good. It's going to be all good on
I
this.
could fill you in just pretty much about like who we are and what we're doing. You know,
Go.
my wife Lorelei and I, we've had the farm. This is our 20th year on the farm, and we both found our path to cannabis from our own directions, and then came across one another along that journey. And you know, since then have developed our farm in a way that is we try to find the balance between what we're doing here and the nature that we're surrounded by. And over the years, have definitely worked toward creating a system here that uses as minimal inputs from outside sources as possible. So we're trying to be organic, but we're also trying to be regenerative as much as possible. You know, so we are third-party certified by Sun and Earth, which is an organic certifier that also certifies that there's other basic things that are happening as far as trying to be as sustainable as possible, engage with the communities, and pay fair wages with our workers and everything. So we're just trying to create this model of sustainability in a marketplace that doesn't really always care about that. I hate to say that, but you know, the way you know, the corporate model of things have kind of come into the cannabis world, being in it before legalization in the medical world, and when 2016, when Prop 64 changed things over in California, trying to hold those values that we always kept by, and then being able to scale in a marketable arena that the state has set up, and so it's been a learning curve for us immensely because, we are intuitive farmers. We are not, we're not known for our business savvy, and entering into the world of cannabis, coming at it from the culture of cannabis from the past, always being a smoker and one who partakes, stepping or being in this world and watching it, the corporate money kind of come in and what it's trying to do to what culture and what understanding of the plant that we already have, and just try and take that and manipulate into their own way to just make money off of it, and so it's been an interesting world that we're navigating through, but we're in it and we feel like we're good people to advocate for the plant because we've always had a past and a connection with it. And to be in this new state of everyone's learning about this plant now, or more willing to learn and get away from the stigmas that have been created through the generations. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of I think people that would just love to just be able to dive into and understand about how this medicine works for people in just so many different ways. So I don't know if you have any questions or anything. I can just keep rambling on if you wanted me to.
Jim, you're muted.
Good, because I can do better than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I'm way better the second time around. I should mute myself first time around more often. Yeah, the lack of surprise on my part about when eventually, you could just see historically this is the way it was going for decades now. It just, the time frame was totally askewed, for all sorts of factors. But it did seem to me when we got to some stage like this that there would be quite the corporate factor inserting itself in, and how do I get a piece of this pie, and how big a piece can I get, and it's you can knock me over with a feather. I mean, that is the way it works, and then double that for New Jersey. I mean, that's the way it works nationally. New Jersey, I feel like, is the birthplace of, hey, where's my slice? But I'm pretty interested in what we were talking on some podcast a month or two ago about what even would craft cannabis be like here, and this is something from what I was looking up that you would know something about. I mean, it seems like you are at the epicenter of craft cannabis in this country. So, and we are at the opposite of being in an epicenter of anything to do with that. But what's going on interesting in that for because this is also where apparently can a craft cannabis is worth a commanding a price relevant to its craft. But that's also where corporate shit starts to happen. Like, oh man, people really like that, But I'm just thinking, like, what would that be like? I want to taste some. I have no head for where it's going to go or anything. It's just that every time I hear that, I want to. I want to have just a little bit of a slice of a taste of that. And so what's going on interesting with something that would please me to know?
Well, I think that being on the sense and the mind frame of being able to taste and immerse yourself, Humboldt County finally opened up to the idea of cannabis tourism. And so we're trying to create a space that would allow for people to come to our farm, maybe even spend the night or 2 or a week or whatever, and be able to actually have a Humboldt County experience, sit on the deck, watch the stars, smoke some fresh herb, and just really experience like true quiet and nature in the hills of Humboldt County, and I think that the stigma that our own county has around growing and around cannabis has really stopped the stigma was too thick for people to get past, that everyone's a grower, is just an outlaw, bad person who's, and honestly, through legalization since 2016, we went from having 10,000 farms in Humboldt County, they were down to 1,400 farms. And the players that are in it now, like, they're the ones that, are the truest to the truth of the plant, because nobody else can withstand all the bullshit to get to this point, And so I feel that the folks that in our community, not just Humboldt, but also Trinity and Mendo, and even some of the outlining, there's people that have been growing for, that have a stronger connection to this plant. And I think that by allowing people from the East Coast or down south or wherever to come in and be able to have an experience here, there's already stuff like that happening. There's a local company called Humboldt Cannabis Tours that anybody who comes to the area can call Matt and set up a tour, and he'll take you around, and you go see a couple farms in a day, go smell fresh flower, go smoke some fresh herb. If the farm is making dabs, then you can probably try and taste some fresh dabs. There's just new flavors or small craft flavors. I feel like there's a world of exposure that we can give people that don't have access to that. It's like to be able to come hang out and, I don't know, just experience nature and be where the plant was grown would be an amazing experience for anyone, I feel. I mean, that's how I felt coming to Humboldt County and seeing these farms for the first time, back in early 2000, 2001, and just being so blown away, and then growing my own on the hill and just being around nature and plants and just the sound of the wind and watching the plants dance in it. And there's just something beautiful in that connection that has really enlightened me in my spirit. And I feel that should be an opportunity for everybody,
That was me driving the 101. Driving down from Oregon to Northern Humboldt down 101. It was a very, 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 like, I don't even know how to say it, spiritual experience of just seeing the old 101 highway out there. It's just like, what?
Yeah, it's a beautiful drive coming through that area.
I don't know,
able to come to Humboldt and stick your nose in some fresh flowers. There's nothing like the smell of fresh terpenes. I'll tell you, man. It's
really
mind blowing.
There really isn't. Yeah.
And this year we were blessed with an amazing growing season. Everyone in the Tri-County area here is really stoked. We had a really epic growing season. Beautiful fall. Plants are just finishing out and getting all plump and taking down the last of what we have out in the field here in the next week or so. Not even next, probably 4 or 5 days. Get the last in and boxing it all up, getting ready for the product. Getting it all trimmed up and out to market. So,
yeah, having been a consumer since 1970. Through the 70s, the smell is what got you in trouble as much as anything. I mean, you couldn't hide it for nothing. You couldn't touch it. It was, and now I just like, I didn't know till these last year or two, as I'm getting a little more educated myself, that it's just not going to be happening like that anymore. It didn't just disappear for no reason. It's like it used to smell like juicy fruit gum and then taste a little bit like it too. I mean, like juicy fruit gum, like it's in my nasal passages still right
That's
now.
so funny. This new strain I just pheno hunted. It's this one right here. It's called I'm calling it the Cherry Burger, and it smells like Fruit Stripes chewing gum. You remember that Fruit Stripes chewing gum?
Yeah, I do. Oh
Yeah.
man, I know the smell. I do. Oh,
And the flavors there too. So it's and that's what a lot of people are breeding for now. I mean, we don't have to be. We want that weed to be loud as possible.
It was good.
So
It's like wine, it's
Absolutely.
so much is in the taste, and
Mhm.
and the bouquet. There, I've increased my
Mhm.
vocabulary tonight by one word. I've never used that in a sentence. But I, it added so much to the actual physical feeling. Close my eyes. How do I feel? Okay, yeah, I like that. But it was a different world when it came with the smells and the taste. Like a meal of sorts. I mean, what if you couldn't smell food? Yeah, that'd be no good. No good at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's something to be said for the terpenes and the science behind terpenes and understanding how they play a role and actually how you feel after you smoke. So instead of just leaning on the sativa or the indica, you're going to start learning to like, oh, I like limonene or I like humulene or I like myrcene, because those terpenes are going to determine how you feel. And so if you look at the cannabinoid THC as the key to your receptor, right? And that key goes into your receptor and opens that door to allow those terpenes in to give you the effect of what that flower holds, right? And so that flower, so all these different terpenes and the combinations, that this is where your effect of where your high is coming from. It's not so much getting it from the THC, but from all the microcannabinoids and then also from all the terpenes. And that's what's going to really affect your high. And that's it's another reason why I highly advocate for outdoor flower, because plants grown in living soil under the sun are going to have that much more density of macro and micro cannabinoids and flavonoids and terpenes. And so all of a sudden you're going to have like a Thanksgiving dinner in one bud. It's all there, and you're just gonna get the entourage effect, and it's gonna affect your body in such positive ways. It's more than just getting high; it's just feeling elevated and connected.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
that's the best part. That's the total package when all is in sync like that. And oh man, how long should I have known about terpenes now? Because I don't know. I would be embarrassed to even say when I first heard terpenes. What's terpenes? Is that like turpentine? What are you talking about?
If
You
you
know,
knew anything about essential oils, that's when you would have learned about terpenes. Other than that, no. Um, I think it was about 15 years ago when I was making my own, and I still have my own brand of essential oils, but that's how I learned how to do it. We were buying terpenes from a farm in Oregon and having it, I had to send them the money first, of course, and all that stuff. But, just putting a couple of drops on a cotton ball and then a couple of drops of another one on a cotton ball until, we found the flavor that we wanted, the scent that we wanted. Now, of course, essential oils is all part of holistic healing too. So we really didn't know what we were doing other than making oils, essential oils, because it was popular. And then I watched it one day. I just watched it happen. And I took a bottle with myrcene and I added it to coconut oil and I whipped it up and I made this like bomb, and then I started selling it and people were like, oh, we love this stuff. This is so great. But nobody knew what the fuck, it was. But it worked, it worked for pain, especially shoulder pain. So I made a killing doing that for a while, and then I got tired of doing it. but even now, like, if someone does ask me to make them an oil, I will do that. It's a lot more work than needs to be, because there's so much out there that you could buy that are just as good. But it's all about the terpenes, and that's and it's healing, and they're all healing, and they all have a different level of healing, or and again, I think we were saying earlier, everybody reacts differently, right?
Oh, yeah.
To using cannabis. So it's fun, it's interesting to see everything come to fruition like this.
Yeah, it really is. It's just that I'm surprised at how little I know about something so important as that. And I even thought to myself when I saw myself looking like that, the Jim, don't look so surprised. It looked like he just came to the party. I've been at this party for half a century. And
But you know what? Nobody was talking about that stuff. Now,
No.
it's even weird. It's weird now, even like when I have to talk to, like, with a group of nurses, and I listen to like a lot of, younger people. And when I went to school, when I went to college, I was taught that nursing was based on holistic care. So I was already there, in that part of healing, that yes, use natural products, whatever we could do, rub honey on a wound, because it's the best antibacterial agent that you could use, for millions of years, it's been there. So it's kind of like a shift in thinking has happened slowly. I think it's happened too slow, but that's just me. But it's fascinating. It's fun. There's just so much to discover.
There really is. I agree with you. There is. I mean, just people learning about the endocannabinoid system, right?
Oh,
and that just
really?
alone blowing people's minds, right? That we have a system that's already in our bodies that are there for taking in the cannabinoids. And then the different layers. There's so many layers to this plant medicine, and that it's been associated with humans for over 10,000 years. And being a cultivator, I almost feel like as much as I'm growing that plant's growing me as well. And there's a relationship between humans and that plant that has been cultivated between the two for thousands of years. And I think that we're supposed to be together, right? We're on this planet, we're created from creator. Boom, here we are. We have this medicine. There's no need to synthesize anything. There's just like plant medicine is where it's at, So
Absolutely.
I was when I got to know Valerie Carell, and not Joe so much, but what they were doing with the end of life situation for like 200 people, some staying at I forget the name of the place they had, where basically you had to be terminally ill to be there, and they maxed out at 250 people. But the descriptions of what it meant to them to be with that plant as it grew, and then to be benefiting from it as others were growing, to be part of that system in that cycle, I write physically there, was about the best thing that could happen to a person. And it physically affected me when it got closed down for the sheer horror of all of it being ripped up all at once, all coming to a close, and then the way, because I had a wife with multiple sclerosis. That was my introduction to when I found out around 1990 that while nothing else worked, that there was indications that it could limit the help relieve the spasticity, the tonic spasticity, the tension. And I forgot where I was going with that. As soon as I get there, my mind just drifts, and I'm like,
You're talking about Cheryl.
Yeah, well, I mean,
right?
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
talking about her tonic specificity
yeah, I know, but that's
and how and tell the story about what you did.
oh well, wow, that's a long story, you know.
Well,
But we'll divide that into
we're
100
okay.
parts, and we'll start right now. Well, okay, the short version would be that.
Short version.
I mean, with the short version, relatively speaking, um, is that I got married to my wife in Oklahoma in 1984, and she had multiple sclerosis. She had just gotten into a wheelchair, but she could have kicked my ass from a sitting position at that time. She was still physically, just her legs were failing. And she didn't smoke, and I did. And when people said, well, how's that going to work? It's going to work out more for me. I don't even have to share that last joint, and she can be happy. And it actually did work that way. But we went on trying to find every possible avenue of multiple sclerosis and what might be done, because she had the chronic primary progressive, steady downhill course, no relapsing, remitting with her. And it took until very early 1990 when I looked up in microfilm on the Ocean County Library in New Jersey, MS and whatever. Oh, a study, MS marijuana may lessen MS spasticity, printed in the Journal of the American Medical Association in June of 1979. And I was pissed. I'm like, holy shit, So then, started a whole thing. And as all that she seemed to have hope for was that, well, nothing else. I mean, everything else, all sorts of ways of looking at it. And a lot of them more holistic than anything. But that we found out that how well it did work. I don't know, what's a guy going to do? I'm a little, I'm an all-in sort of guy, and when it's that kind of important, it got real personal to me real fast. And as you know, in the 1990s, early 90s, the only thing that gave us hope was passing Prop 215 in 1996, to where we had been saying it's medicine all by ourselves in New Jersey and didn't know anybody else doing this. Now we had backup all the way from California to a degree. And, along the way, got more to the point and more, not, I don't want to say in people's face, but I guess it was called speaking truth to power then, and when you get off here, you go to like YouTube and look up Cheryl Miller marijuana, and just those 3 words, and it should go pretty quick to a 1998 news footage of NBC of us being arrested in Washington, D.C., in a congressman's office, giving her a bud to eat. I mean, she wouldn't even smoke it because I don't smoke. That'd be like misleading. I wouldn't do that. And people were helping us. No, come on, it's really good. No. I said, if you ever watched All in the Family, she was like Edith Bunker. She was just so simple and straight and right, I mean, and one time I said something about this fucking thing, and she said, is that the same as this thing? Yeah, I knew exactly what she meant, She said it diminishes the severity. But anyway, yeah, so, there's pretty good footage of getting arrested for that, but they didn't know what to do. There, they couldn't get rid of us quick enough, and then she got arrested she did, for laying her body down in Congressman Bob Barr's doorway because he shit-canned their Initiative 69 in D.C., which was medical marijuana, and made sure that they couldn't process it in his role as a congressman. So basically, we laid her down on a sleeping bag in his doorway and got arrested for that. And then you could also, if you were looking around for Cheryl Miller on YouTube, you'd probably see that. laying in the doorway and getting arrested, and the commercial that she made that kicked Bob Barr out of Congress. For real, you can go to his Wikipedia page. You can click on that ad. That's really a shit kicker for him get kicked out like that, and follow him everywhere he goes in Wikipedia. So that's my whole thing here, and that's why I asked about MS. But there's so much going on everywhere now, where then there was nothing going on. I mean, nothing. And next month, nothing. That's a month's worth of pain, a month's worth of deterioration. So I don't know what to make of myself even sometimes. It's just that it's not like getting high for me sometimes. It's like cutting through the static. It calms the carnival in my head, and it's like being the opposite of high, almost just more aware. And I will forget what I'm in the middle of saying, but I'm 72. I get to use that as an excuse now. It's been happening a lot longer than that, but
I definitely have to say I'm interested to see where now that it's being studied, and what effects it has on mental health and how it can be used for mental health. They're very quick to prescribe pills real easily to anybody. It doesn't matter, So it's like you got to figure out. There's other things. There's other ways to go, and I feel like us as a human species, we've been neglected cannabis for 100 years. It's been really pushed away from us, and probably even longer than that. And I really feel like that sometimes the disease of our people is the fact that we've been cut off from a natural medicine that we've had alongside of us for thousands of years.
And that so deeply pisses me off, because the long and short of it with MS is, now that the MS Society, for whenever they had an MS walk, we would show up and hand out information that they didn't want handed out at their events. We did that for like years, and I did it for years after she died. Cheryl died in 2003, and she instilled in me the knowledge of how many people there were that we'll never see or know, and the idea of them having to physically show up or beg for anything really pisses me off. And if it weren't for people like Lefty, who are more out there than me, I wouldn't know what to think, but birds of a feather. And I just love hearing now, though, that this getting so more specific, not just, it loosens your muscles if you have MS, whatever, The irony was when she got arrested, when they went to fingerprint her, the muscles would all contract like that, and they didn't understand that, and I did. And the pad where it's standing, it's like this. There's a little shelf on a wall with fingerprint pads on it that they walk you up to. And with her, she's rolling up, she can't lift her arms up. And they said, we'll help her. Don't worry, I'm like, okay, get ready for blast off. They didn't know what that meant. But the minute they picked up her arm, she went, whoa, and the heels kicked back in. And she started sliding down in her chair, and I went, blast off. And I tilted the chair backwards, and she slid back. And, it's like doing this. What you can't see. It's like doing that to them without doing it.
Right.
But, our life was just full of that on a regular basis. All I had to do is walk up with her in her reclining wheelchair, and people would come to me. If Governor McGreevey was stumping for John Corzine to be senator or something in Park, they just show up, and their PR people come on over and go, would you like to meet with Governor McGreevey? Well, yeah, okay. We come without signs. we walk right through it. There's no beating down the door. So, that was kind of our function. And this is through all the bullshit now that what's going on that gets to happen. You're not facing fear of arrest with what you do. I would assume.
No, yeah.
What a wonderful thing.
It's,
And
it's a
being
grateful thing.
72, I feel that's the part that we were always waiting for then. It's coming. And it's a very slow tipping point, and no bell goes off when it's all over. And it's just assimilation of two giant cultures and people jumping from this is bad. Can I make money off it? It's just unbelievable. But more to the point of tonight, the specificity that we're talking about, using this as medicine, it blows me away. I do understand the ramifications and the potential, and that's nice. And I just wish it all was like juicy fruit gum again.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more weed being grown everywhere, and more people are learning how to grow weed everywhere.
And what about skunk weed? I mean, it smelled like a skunk with a sweet sort ofness added to it, you know. And I had skunks under the house that I rented, a little house behind the house for a period. And if one went off, I mean, it could be like really, really bad, or it could be just like, oh, fuck. And it would always light up the joint then, just because it smelled so good then. It was really weird, taking an actual skunk smell and go, oh, let me light some of this bullshit here. And yeah, I almost got higher because it smelled a little like skunk.
And they're finding out that skunk smell comes from sulfur compounds in the plant, which is interesting.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's some of the new science behind those smells, so.
Yeah, the science being allowed. I take a lot of time looking in my rearview mirror how it was, just to be as thankful as I should be that I've lived long enough and still will live a lot longer, I hope, to watch where this is going. It's like the most vicarious enjoyment I've had in my life is watching all of this happen, and I get joy out of other people's successes, And then, there's a couple people whose face I'm going to rub it in now that we're on this side of the coin,
There's still a lot of work to do, though, because I with all the things that I'm grateful for, being able to cultivate and not feel the sweat of the helicopters flying over and all that like we used to. But still, I mean, I tell people it's not fully legal. It's regulated. It's not legal. It's regulated, And so if you're not paying to play, you're not in the game. So, and unfortunately, that leaves a lot of people out. And so I think that, I saw someone posted there earlier something about, descheduling, and that's really what would make the game change, not even rescheduling to a Schedule 3, because that does put it into pharmaceuticals' hands, and that doesn't really work well. It doesn't work well for all of us or for the end user, because then you're dealing with the pharmaceutical companies getting their hands into it all. So
medication.
Well, I myself have hope that, it's sort of like it has its own course, I think, set right now. And of course, we get as many last licks as everybody can for what they might want to have represent that they would like to have happen. But, I kind of like look at the horses in the race and say, yeah, it's going to go Schedule 3. It's not going to just jump right. That's my feeling, but in thinking that way, it occurred to me that Schedule 3 would demonstrate itself that it doesn't need to be in Schedule 3, that it's going to be good on so many levels that the simplicity of just saying, the sky didn't fall. Why are we even at Schedule 3? Let's, and the descheduling would have more credibility as opposed to going straight from Schedule 1, no medical use, to it's a weed. I would love for that rock to drop like that, but I just don't see it happening. And that's not my cross to bear. That's not my fight to fight. There's a lot of good horses in that game pushing as hard as they can. I couldn't push it .000 anything more. So I don't, because all I'm about is, when I say homegrown New Jersey now, it's not even that. All I'm about now is having a hearing for a homegrown bill that's been blocked for 3 years, 8 months, and then a few weeks now. Just for having a hearing. Lowest common denominator, It's the hardest thing to say no to or to explain why it's happening. But in my own world, I'm approaching a point where, with no power of negotiation, it seems like I almost have to go back to the old tactics of, pushing my First Amendment rights. I picketed a congressman's house in 2003 after Cheryl died with her memorial wheelchair, just to see if the Patriot Act would be in effect and they could supersede my First Amendment rights. And it turns out they couldn't. And it turns out that Congressman Pallone found out the hard way after he thought that I was gone. I was there from 7 to 12 outside his house after pushing Cheryl's memorial wheelchair because she passed away, with a sign about fundraising walk 26 miles to Long Branch. But it wasn't a fundraising walk. It was a walk to get there and take out the sign, "Here lives Congressman Pallone. He lied while my wife died," and start walking back and forth in front of his house. And from 7 to 12 at night, fine. Police rousted me. They don't know. People are scared. They don't know what you're doing. I can't see your sign. That was my in. I'll come back tomorrow morning when they can see my sign, First Amendment, make sure the morning crew knows. And everything was fine. So where we are now in New Jersey is the actual prospect that the Senate President blocking this bill without discussion or at all. Why? Totally unreachable.
Well, that's really too bad, because
yeah.
that would be huge for New Jersey to be. I mean, for all legal states to have some sort of homegrown law. I think
it's
people
so many.
should have that
So
right.
many do. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being in a position and being an outlier state and having to explain why it's necessary, as opposed to the people maintaining it as an outlier state, the lawmakers? It should be on them to explain why we should stay an outlier state. It bothers me that the discussion is being had, and that's where in the old days, getting arrested, being in the news for getting arrested, in and out, it got the discussion started. And honestly, I don't see it getting started. And maybe it's just going to be therapeutic for me, But there is that 1 in a whatever chance that when a lawyer writes a letter to Senator Scutari, as well as the Mentum police, what I will be doing, and with the suggestion that he call Frank Pallone's office and ask him how it's going to work out. I just want to play that card after all these years. I mean, think of it on his end. Look, honey, I really don't want a guy picketing here, but I got to warn you, this may be happening. Let it come to his house a little while. He's affecting so many people in their own homes. Fuck him. It's going to affect him in his home, and not maliciously. I'm talking about standing the other way, just standing over a sign, not buttonholing people. Information, fine. There's going to be nobody asking me for information. 2 hours gone. How hard is that? That's not what this is all supposed to be about. Sue got me started. It's her fault.
It's my fault.
It is. I can't do
How
it.
I know it. I know it's my fault.
You set me up.
How are the regs affecting? Are they affecting you at all? The change in the regs in California, because we have the same change here.
Good question. Yeah.
I mean, Oh, the hemp. I'm glad that they banned it actually, just because we can't have that in our supply chain
pollination,
mixed in with what we're doing. It's like there's too many loopholes for that, for the hemp to be able to come into our state and then get synthesized to these different cannabinoids, and then getting put into our regulated market is just, it's undermining what we're doing and what they're making us do to even put our product into the market. Like if anybody's going to be putting product into the market that's going to be considered to have a THC in it, then they should have to go through all the shit that we go through to put our product in the market. That's for damn sure. And so it's one thing if you're making hemp-based products that don't have the THC, but as soon as you start changing those cannabinoids to be THC or some sort of Delta 8 or whatever that's going to get you high, but it's not the natural plant, then I feel I'm not into it. I'm like, we're having a hard enough time to get our product into the market here in California, and to have pretty much fake weed come in and be in that same market, it doesn't make any sense.
What about the pollination? You grow outdoors, and if hemp's growing in close proximity to growth like yours,
we banded it together as growers in Humboldt County and asked the county to put a moratorium on growing hemp in Humboldt County for that very reason.
Yeah.
There's even like we saw it happen in Southern Oregon where they allowed hemp, and even with the low percentage of what males come out of feminized seed, it doesn't matter. It's enough pollen to destroy a cannabis crop, and so it's just better not to have it around if you're going to be growing commercially for specific cannabis strains with THC. We do have some CBD strains as well, but we're not growing fields of hemp and having male pollen fly everywhere. So, and that would detriment, like we live in a river valley. If someone had a hemp farm in our river valley, all it would take was one gust of wind and the whole valley would be pollinated.
What industry had a problem with that besides cannabis hemp industry? Somewhere.
Well, there was the Monsanto corn seed that was happening when you had organic corn fields next to Monsanto chemical corn, and then that pollen came across and it affected the organic corn because then it no longer was able to pollinate because the chemical alteration in the pollen messed with the organic farmer's seed. So
was that where they did surveys and studies of where the pollen might end up? I mean, in other words, well, if you grow here, it sounded like it was almost like a weather report of some sort. Which way would this nasty pollen go? And I'm like beside myself. So I never thought of that. I never. It didn't even occur to me. You could.
Yes, that's just really. It's a big reason why we didn't want hemp to be part of in Humboldt County. And we work together with other farmers. We have a trade organization here at Humboldt County Growers Alliance, and that's an organization of all of our local growers. And what they do for us is they are working on the county and state level for legislation for what the small farmers really need to be able to survive in today's market, because legislators that are writing the laws, they don't know what it is to have boots on the ground, to be actually doing the work and creating the product and competing with outside corporate money, so having a trade association that really advocates for the small farmer is super important. And I feel like I think people that are in any kind of small group, marginalized group, the more that you can come together to stand together to push against legislators, the louder your voices are heard, so like for New Jersey with the home growers bill, I mean, I I hope that passes, and I hope that there's the ability that you can get a group together that can really help keep pushing
Well,
that issue to
we
like.
have two things going on: a separate medical bill, and then one that would be for everybody adult. Because we're that very small group of having legalized for adult use, but not for patients to grow. And the patient program has been up for almost 15 years now. So it's not a matter of let's get organized first, but there was such confusion, not confusion. It's like I wasn't surprised to find out when we couldn't get it passed legislatively. So the Senate forces to be that really wanted it to be passed had it set up to be a referendum. We don't have initiative and referendum, so citizens can't get a certain amount of signatures and get it on. So when that happened, it seemed like a lot of people didn't understand that there's going to be only so much to vote on, and the devil's in the details and working out all the regulations. And the words home grow or home cultivation were not anywhere on what people voted for. They just expected, because all the other states seemed to do that, the majority. I mean, it was the way it was working. And, but then consider we live in a state where home grow was in the original bill and got passed easily in the Senate. And then it got taken out in assembly compromise. Something happened beyond legislators, something said, no, we're not going to have home grow in our medical bill. And it was, announced by the head of the health committee in the assembly, and he's never said why. And he didn't have the juice to get it done. And, but that to be in a state that did that and then puts legalization on the ballot so we can vote on it and pass it 2-1. I think more than half the people that voted on it expected it came with home grow. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't think so. I didn't even know. I would have tried to educate people then before we went to vote on it. No, it's not going to include home grow. Still vote on it, but so anyway, and then we got a Senate president who's powerful enough to be able to just say no to adults and patients at this point. But the way it's going to work out, I have no trouble going out on a limb. The way it's going to work out is I'll have to drop the rope on patients at one time, and then that will open the door for adult home grow, because the sky won't fall when patients start growing it.
Right.
And that's why patients aren't getting a bill heard now, in my estimation, because our Senate president doesn't want to have to fight on two fronts. He includes patients and is very wide net cast. And okay, we'll hold you as collateral damage to getting money into the treasury. And again, if there's nothing I can do about it, okay. But shut my phone up. I'm sitting on it now. Yeah, it's all coming to a head, but there's no way to right the wrong that the needless misery and suffering caused by people lack of having medicine, and patients aren't going to be able to grow. I'm a patient. I'd be growing whatever I could to make like a balm or something for a little base edible,
Totally.
But what I wouldn't be able to grow what I want to smoke. And I'm no dummy. I just wouldn't be able to do it. So patients aren't. But I see one thing about growers in New Jersey is they're very proud of being good growers, and they want to impart that in others. There's no like, I'm not telling you my secrets. There's no secrets ever. It's like a fraternity. And if a patient needed advice, I don't think there'd be any problem mixing like the Big Brother programs of stuff. Once a week,
Yeah.
I'll stop over and if I can't make it over, we can FaceTime. I'll give you all the advice, and I don't know, man, who wouldn't feel good about that on either end? So which then
Totally.
that's where New Jersey's slice of the pie is, though. It's a whole new cottage industry because patients will likely be growing indoors more than outdoors for their needs, and they could grow year round like that, which means it's a whole new industry in New Jersey and servicing the patient's needs as well. And that's where the slice of the pie comes in for New Jersey. You got to have a
Yeah.
carrot. It's tough, but I just, California's always been like, when I was a kid, it was Disneyland. And then when I was an adult, it was still Disneyland, just a different Disneyland, and the whole Emerald Triangle thing, the whole, it's like, should be in a comic book. It's so nice. But that's why I was real happy to hear, although I can't contribute as much as I can receive here tonight. It's been I don't know, it's just been good to hear, somebody that gets it, and is doing it for like the same reasons I would be doing it. I don't know. I feel better having met you and talked about this myself. It was a good night for me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great being here chatting with you guys.
Yeah. We're not your normal podcast at times. And just so you know, the irony of Lefty's wonderful setup where he is, that's a diorama of the town, the picture right behind him. So you can see that.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
Bayonne.
Yeah, Bayonne. And that's where he does his crosswalk work, making sure, the whole thing going on. But right now he's at his studio in the Mad Hatter Dispensary, which is a better avenue to his home, and it's why his voice sounds better than it really is, because he's got some good equipment. But he can't smoke. But he can't smoke there, so we can all smoke while he's in his diorama there, and then he takes.
So unfair.
Yeah, then he takes to the phone and walks out to his vehicle and has a smoke, and and he can't get out that much during a Thursday night, because this is not like he needs to be there. It's just because have another podcast where it's more like on the Lefty's Playhouse and just freewheeling it, and then he's just in and out like it's a relay race. But there's something ironic being in a dispensary and he can't smoke. He has to go outside.
That's the one thing Oregon did right. When I worked in Oregon as a medical patient, every place that I worked at had to have medical accommodation for medical patients within any facility. That was the Oregon Liquor, Cannabis, and Alcohol Regulatory Commission. Were like, you know what? Yeah, medical patients who are going to work in the industry making more medication deserve to be medicated. So they had private rooms or locations. One spot I worked at had a couch for me.
Yeah.
The
But
first,
New Jersey being the way it is, they don't care about patients. So welcome to New Jersey.
well, the first time I went to a dispensary was like 7 years ago. I've been a patient before that, but I didn't register and become a state registered patient. And the first thing I noticed was you could smell it outside, at least. And it's like, I've never smelled this outside, not in so long. Awesome. And but then it'd be like no smoking allowed. They made that quite clear everywhere, although our law says, if I'm on the road right outside their dispensary where I would be, rather than right in the parking lot, I'd get a road space pretty early. And when I'd get something, whether I was in their parking lot or not, I'd light it up and have it, because I'm a registered patient. And if they wanted to come out and tell me I couldn't do that, I'd go, oh, I'm sorry. And I just kind of got to where, I was walking out of the parking lot and I had something, a little pipe with me. I put some right in, and nobody ever said I couldn't, but it looked odd, like no smoking, no smoking, no smoking at a dispensary where, I'm pretty sure if I'm out.
Same here, though. We're not allowed to smoke in dispensaries here. You have to get a
Oh,
special.
yeah.
And, hopefully that's because a lot of it has to do with jurisdiction in town that would allow for being able to have an expansion room where you have a lounge. But like I said, there's still a lot of stigma behind smoking weed in public, man. It's
New Jersey,
having a place to go smoke with some weed, So.
Patients have in New Jersey a pretty good setup compared to a lot of other states where you can smoke in your car pretty much unless you're told not 25 feet from the doorway, take the keys out of the ignition, yada, yada. And then consume your medicine, and when you feel you're good to drive, then continue. That's the rule. And I didn't know when that we got a good deal on that, because in a lot of more liberal cannabis liberal states, you can't do that. I like getting.
That's why I got kicked out too. Sorry, I'm laughing at that comment because I got kicked out of a dispensary here in New Jersey for doing the exact same thing, comparing my legacy cannabis to the dispensary. Like, you can't do that, and I was like, "Well, it says I can. I'm not looking at yours. I'm looking at mine." No.
I'm looking at marijuana, not cannabis.
I'm leaving then. See you later.
Well, like when Stephen Kuspovich's ornery patient, we were supporting somebody at a trial, a patient thing, and the courtroom was a dank old building with pew-like seats for you to sit in, and he went and took out his container of medicine, opened it up, and he managed to get one that really smelled pretty bad, a lot, or put something else in it, whatever. And he just put it down on the seat next to him, waited for somebody, like, tell me I can't do that. Well, of course he can do that. And the trial went on, but Lefty, you were there, right, Lefty? When Stephen did that?
Yeah, I think is that the day we spilled bong water in court?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we spilled bong water one day too.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. When was the first time you smoked weed? How old were you? And is there a story behind it?
Everybody.
It's
Five.
kind of a funny story, actually.
He was 5.
This is a funny story. So I was 12 and going to school in high school, junior high in New Jersey. I was part of a
Where
play,
in New Jersey? Yeah, I don't want to interrupt. Where?
Elmwood Park, which is right next to Patterson. I don't know if you know where Patterson is. So it's like right.
Wait,
right
do you
I
know
know.
Joanne? Do you know Joanne? Joanne Zito?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
So anyway, you're 12 and you're in Elmwood Park.
So in Elmwood Park, I am at a play. I was part of the cast and the crew, and my buddy was like, "Hey man, do you want to smoke some weed?" And I was already familiar with it. I kind of been introduced to it the year before when I was a little bit younger. The summer before, it actually was like the summer before. And anyway, so I was like, "Yeah, let's do that," And so we bought a nickel bag from one of the seniors, and we asked him to roll up a joint for us. And he's like, "All right, well, if I'm gonna roll up with you, let's just go smoke it too," So we hopped in the back of a pickup truck and laid down, and this dude in the pickup just drove around while we smoked a joint in the back of the truck. And then so that was my first time smoking. And then it was like a couple days later where I was at the cast party after the show, and some friends of mine, because this is what year is this? This is in 89, right? DARE program, rat out your friends is like the motto with things, tell on your parents and rat out your friends if they're smoking weed. So I had some friends that call my parents with the fear of the fact that I started smoking weed or I tried smoking weed. So like the first time I'm smoking weed, I'm going home having to deal with, my
Oh.
parents being like, "Are you smoking weed?" And me like, "Oh man."
no.
Par-
And it created this whole bullshit scene in school, right? Like this total like, the principal and the dean of discipline get involved, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to say anything. We're going to try and keep this hush hush." But they made me like this whole like poster boy for like smoking weed, and I was like just basically like fuck everybody, dude. It was like whatever, man. And it didn't make me not smoke weed because I actually liked the feeling I had, and I just took it upon myself just to kind of keep going that route. And then I had my buddy's dad came up to me and he was like, "All right, you guys, I know you're going to be fucking smoking weed whether we tell you to do it or not. So if you're going to be doing it, you might be coming to me to get your weed. So I know you're not buying some shit from some guy out the corner, And so,
That's a responsible adult. Yeah.
right. And he was like totally Grateful Dead family, had all the friends that toured and come through and like, just, had access to good, clean medicine and, just knowing that it wasn't a bunch of shit and laced with something, But yeah. And so, growing up, weed was very much a good friend of mine. It's kind of like helped me pave a way in my path through life. And I kind of just found myself coming out west, not because of weed, just because I always wanted to come out west. And I didn't even know Humboldt County was the Shangri-La of weed until I actually moved out here. I moved out here really to get as far away from New Jersey on the continental United States that I
How
can.
old were you when you moved there?
I was 21. I was 21.
You and Bobby were the same age, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a couple of years older than me. Yep.
Okay.
And and then like, I moved out here and it wasn't very long that I found out like that you can grow indoor and stuff because it was like I was here a week and someone told me where to go to buy some weed and the dude's like, "Hey, you want to check out my grow room?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he takes me up into his attic and I'm like, "Whoa, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that, And so all of a sudden my wheels started turning and it wasn't
Yeah,
only,
that was
like,
it.
yeah, I was like, I don't know, maybe 8-9 months later, I had a little closet that I lined the walls with aluminum foil. I got some couple like shitty lights for my friend, and grew a couple plants, got a couple ounces. I was like, woo, this is pretty cool.
That's funny when you can trade follow the direct cause of a directional change in one's life. It's like the appearance of a grow room in an attic. That exact second, like, change your course.
Oh yeah,
Love it. I mean,
absolutely. And then in that cannabis journey, it was like being introduced to indoor. I was living on the coast, and that's where indoor was like, pretty good to do there because the climate really suits it, And then going out to a cannabis farm that was outdoors in the hills and in southern Humboldt, that was kind of like, oh shit, man. Next level. Like,
yeah.
I don't have to be in a warm, hot, sweaty little box of a room with my plants. I could be outside with the breeze and out in nature and just big plants, like big plants, and just learn how to get to that point. It was it's been a journey.
There's a path from the attic grow room, to seeing an outdoor grow. Kind of like, I guess that's like high school then college or something. I don't know. Where one seems real big.
Yeah.
Time until you get to that.
And these weren't huge grows outdoor either, or indoor. They're all kind of small and even back then it'd be like 25 plants outside because back then they had curtilage law with medical, and so people can grow not out in the because back in the Humboldt history, people were guerrilla growing, and like you walk like a mile out into the woods, and you know people growing in trees or underneath the brush of the manzanitas and all that kind of stuff, you know. But then when medical came into play, and then they had curtilage laws, it allowed you to grow your 25 plants right outside your house, as long as you had like a fence line that can go around it that's kind of connected to your living zone, you know. And so, and that's where, you still had to be careful, because the helicopters are always flying, and they're always looking for people to bust. And so so you had some of these gardens that weren't huge but just had 25 beautiful big plants or 50 big plants. And you're just, when you see an outdoor plant and it's from seed that was done right, it's an impressive sight, because some plants can push 12 feet tall, 10 feet round, and it's like pretty mind altering just being in the presence of that massive cannabis entity.
I would
Nice.
I would be concerned about somebody, just seeing it for like, wow, and next thing you know, you're missing a whole part of it the next day or something.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people out here were out in the hills, for those reasons. And you didn't talk or show anything to anybody for a long time. Now, it's legal, and we still have to have care, be careful about it, and
Sure.
not share where we're at, and have locked gates and doors and things, But going out sometimes, people's farms were way out in the hills, and it made for it. That's the security of it in its own self. You don't even know where stuff is because you don't see it from the roads. It's a dirt road somewhere. And a lot of that has changed. That's the history of where it's come from. And now it's evolved into this new thing, and it's still evolving. So. And like you, Jim, advocating for all the things that you've advocated for with cannabis, it takes that to push the needle for people to wake up and legislate differently, or just have a different, idea of what cannabis is and all that, So
California actually helped me 3 years before 96. Well, actually, they failed thing in 95, came back in 96, ready to get it done. And now I forgot what I was even saying that. I can't even say it's probably not important, but it could have been earth shattering.
Dave, what's your favorite munchie food?
Oh man, I really like pizza. I do.
Yeah.
And,
He's from Jersey, of course he does.
Well, it can't be as good as pizza here, but
No,
I mean,
of course
the
not.
pizza in North Humboldt is not the best, I'd say, but it is
not the
okay.
best. There's one New York style pizza. Well, there's like a little chain of New York style pizza places, which the original owner was from Fort Lee. I made the check out that out.
Oh, wow.
When I first moved here, I was like, man, whoever's making pizzas this good is from the East Coast. He's like, hey, Fort Lee. I was like, hey, no shit, dude. Bergen County, what's up?
So I remembered what I forgot, which is like rare, but one thing you don't want to do is forget it twice in a row like that, And in 93, the California legislature passed a joint resolution urging Congress to pass medical marijuana legislation and act expeditiously or whatever. But they came out with reasons why, and it got sent to every senator, congressman, and members of the cabinet, and the president, vice president. It's just, send it out, send out notice. But until that happened, how do you advocate for medical cannabis in New Jersey? I mean, for the years up until then. That's why 93, that kind of stimulated my walk across the state, saying, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And I pushed Cheryl's wheelchair across state with a sign that said medical marijuana for MS or multiple sclerosis, and from Seaside to Trenton, so they'd know I was going across state. And it was largely because of that, because I had everything I could on what California did, their legislature, that it wasn't just me. I'm not just some crazy guy, who wants to get pot for his wife. So, yeah, it opened the door, and then 3 years later, like, burst it wide open. I just wish California had been more represented in New Jersey when Governor Christie took over the regulatory process, which is why our medical cannabis road was so long here. And he did that by saying, we don't want to be like the Wild West in Colorado and California. He kept saying how we don't want to be like that. And I kept trying to find help from people in California to try to get in touch with him and say, stop using us as an excuse. It's not Wild West here. I mean, nobody is sort of like, come on, stick up for us, help us out. But in the end, it was just, everybody knew once it happened in California, it wasn't going to be like when gambling happened in Nevada and stopped there. There's no way that was going to happen. And so I don't know. It seems like that was where it all began, and made it easier, right? Made it possible to say, hey, look, they're way bigger than our state, have way more minds working on this than we would. So, maybe they're right, and we should learn something. 30 years later, not so much.
Yeah, we're still here.
Can't quit now. So like when you got the pyramid up like to about here, that's not the time to quit. It's like,
No, totally. You got to keep pushing that square boulder up the hill. That's everything with cannabis.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well,
last
yeah,
question. If you have
to relieve all that stress that we're dealing with, like in any kind of cannabis legislation, legalization, or regulation, anyway. So,
long
Dave,
time.
one last question before you go. If you have a friend of yours who's down on his luck, sad, depressed, what's something that you would say to them to cheer them up? Maybe a life lesson or a quote or something that's got you out of a jam.
That's the toughest.
honestly, just breathe, because this too shall pass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's an answer that's been given before, which I think makes it more important. It's not like, oh no, it wasn't unique. No, that means it's advice that's out there. Just breathe. I forget who it is. Lefty, I hope you have a list somewhere. I mean, you've had a lot of great guests on lately, and the streak is well alive. It'd be nice to know which, because I remember what people like for Munchie foods, but I forget who and which.
I like more edibles.
Lefty, you need an intern. Somebody takes an interest in this and would help you do all that crazy stuff I think of you for you to do. Somebody I'm sure would be proud to help. We got to find that person. Pizza.
Well, Dave, thank you so much, man. This has been great. I really appreciate it. If you want to hang out for a minute, we want to make you really sad because we have our list here. But before I get to that, I want to thank CMMNJ, CannaSense, UFCW, JacksonStorms.com, Smoking Monkey, Arlo Glass, OpenMachine.com, Mad Hatter Dispo. We're out here. Mad Hatter in Avenel, opening up soon. And SativaCross.org. We have a list of all our friends and family that are still waiting for legalized cannabis in New Jersey. And this list, we add to this list monthly sometimes because 1 out of 10 patients die here in New Jersey. The CRC said there's 70,000 patients here in New Jersey. 70,000. and they used to be what 130, 140.
Well, they're not putting out statistics on the mortality rate since 2015. I used to watch that because that's a statistic that people need to know. It's 22 a day. You say that, it's going to be, oh, that's how many veterans commit suicide every day, U.S. military veterans. So I wanted to figure in New Jersey how many patients died before it became legal for them to grow. And the thing is, the list started small.
That's what
About
once it's
9 or 10 years ago, I guess it was, when we first started doing podcasts regular at Trenton, with the weekly ones. And but then it just got so long. It's pretty much Lefty will occasionally single out one or two along the way and drift off and say something, but it's mainly a bunch of names like they do at the World Trade Center once a year. Read off everybody's name killed in the September 11th attack. So we feel that we know who these patients are, and they don't need to be explained. But it's nice just to have mentioned their names. Those who died before they could see what we're seeing now. And I imagine this list will go on probably until patients can grow their own. That would be because it's mostly about that. And then at the end, Lefty recites either one or two verses of an ode to remembrance that was written after World War I. And United States, Great Britain, Australia, and somebody else, that became like a kind of a big deal. So, basically it's but there's always some, and I got to tell you, I can't even focus on each one because it's a pretty get through it list. But I think if I didn't know who these people were, even just knowing, and you hear the list should be stopping now. It's so many. But you got to stop on somebody during the middle, though, Lefty. Sometimes you go right through it. And he starts with Cheryl first. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, the list starts with Cheryl, Jim's wife, Cheryl, who suffered from MS, who inspired me because I just thought pot gave you the munchies, and that's why it helped people. But it was a lot more than that. I learned that from watching Cheryl and how she was able to turn her. Jim was give her cannabis, and her arms would turn from hard spaghetti to cooked spaghetti, and he was able to exercise her and move her arms and her legs and help her have a quality of life. Sabina Rose was a baby, a 15-month-old baby. She died from a 25-hour seizure, waiting for her cannabis card in the mail. Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan Ford, Randy. They gave Randy the Whipple procedure for his cancer before they gave him cannabis oil. I think they should have given him cannabis oil first before the Whipple procedure, but what do I know?
Yeah, that's a pretty, you know what? Pancreatic cancer is a pretty quick moving cancer. So they probably needed to do the Whipple first. I mean, they could have given cannabis anyway, but yeah.
No, they didn't, though.
They got to move fast with that.
Polly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Matt, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie. That's my grandma, and I used to bring her a vape bag. I used to fill up a vape bag and drive it down an hour to her. And she was in pain, so I would give her the vape bag, and I'd say, hey, Grandma, we're going to test your breathing today. And every day I'd go test her breathing with this vape bag. And when I'd go there, eventually she would be asking me for the bag. She says, hey, where's my breathing test? So she knew it was up. And she liked it because it helped her. Jackie, Anthony, Jake, Armando, Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne Peters, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lulu, Becky, Lawanda, Chip, Paul, Lisa, Marcus, Gary, and Jeff. Ouch.
And ending with Jeff, why don't you expound on who Jeff was? Lefty?
Jeff would go to these council meetings with us for years. They gave him 4 months to live, and he used cannabis oil and outlived what the doctors said because he lived for 4 years fighting for cannabis patients, fighting for cancer patients all over New Jersey. When they would ban medical cannabis, he would go to those towns and pour out his heart to them. And when they wouldn't listen to that, then he would yell at them. And there was times when he went there with sick from chemo. He went there strapped with a bag of chemo to his hip. Great advocate and an amazing person, great friend.
He got in one last parting shot with our governor.
Sorry, that's me.
Yes, not me. He got a parting shot with our governor at a town hall that a governor was having, and the format was his governor's chief of staff would get 3x5 file cards with person's question. They would write the question on it, and then she would give them to the governor, and he would read the question and then answer, and see where it is, and he'd read the next question and he would deal with that. And the governor's chief of staff had talked with Jeff and come over because he was obviously not well. And she helped him with his question and gave it to the governor last. It was like, so what was it, Lefty? It was something the governor had to read, something like, why is it that I live in a state that will help me die, but not help me live by allowing me to grow my medicine? Because we have what's it called, Sue? A right to die law?
Yeah, suicide law, or right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a very
Assisted suicide.
valuable. It's like
13 states have a right to die.
Yeah.
law.
But
And
for him to have to read that question, and if I remember right, he said he mumbled something about, I don't want to answer this. Like there's no answer for that. But I always appreciate that. And, to be fair, he never has answered it. And it's growing time for him to be fair or game to answer Jeff's question.
Yeah, he pushed Jeff off to the Department of Health.
Well, yeah, that was like it was about 6 months before he died.
It wasn't part of his agenda. For home grow was not part of Phil Murphy's agenda, and a cancer patient advocating for home grow is too dangerous for him.
And he ran one of the biggest things he ran on was making sure that cannabis was legalized for adult use in New Jersey. So he is the one, and I will within the first 100 days. It didn't work out. Come on. He's from New Jersey. You don't do anything in 100 days in New Jersey that has to do with money. Holy crap, man. You got to set your claws in first. That takes 6 months before you even get started. But anyway, that was Jeff. And I remember telling him if there was a Cheryl Miller Award, he'd be the first recipient. Because they were like, so here I am. What are you going to do with me? Let's talk. But then Lefty, of course, wraps all this up with the Ode to Remembrance stanza or two, if he decides to do the two. And how long did we do this, Lefty, before somebody, was it Joanne, got in touch with you at a last podcast of the season? It was a rainy day. And she said, "Do you know that that's written in stone above the entrance, one of the entrances to the War Memorial Auditorium where big events would go on. They called the War Memorial Auditorium.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it was inscribed on it, and I don't know why or when you started commemorating.
I did it
People
because
were-
I saw it on rugby. I watched rugby, like South African rugby, Australian rugby, New Zealand rugby, and they do this ode to remembrance. And I'm like, where'd this come from? So I started reading it because I really liked it, and then we saw it written in stone. It was written in stone at the state house. I'm like, oh, okay.
We have a picture of us somewhere, and we're all like wet, standing under this. And we went right down after the podcast. Joanne says, "No way."
Yeah, it was crazy.
We were already wet, and we went and got wet. And so anyway,
Dave,
if
you got a website, Dave? We can check out your website.
SunriseMountainFarms.com.
good
You can
one, easy to remember.
You can also find us on Instagram at Sunrise Mountain Farms. We're shadow banned, so make sure you type out the whole Sunrise Mountain Farms.
That old gag.
Yeah, shadow banned for many years now.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
I don't like shadow bands.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can check out our website. That has some access to if you're in California, where you can purchase our products at your local dispensary in your area, and gives you some information and some photos of what we're doing here at the farm. And I take care of the Instagram stuff, so I'm posting farm stuff mostly. Yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you very much. Been an awesome guest. We appreciate your time, taking time
Thank
for
you
us.
so much.
And, you have a great
Dave,
day.
thank you so much.
This is our ode to remembrance. It goes like this: They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.
Good night.
And thank you again, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
appreciate the
soon.
time.